Hello world! We are
Salwa,
and Sophia. We are honored that you're embarking this journey with us.
coming to you from across continents in early Sunday mornings.
We are here to talk to you about life,
Love,
self-worth,
relationships,
hardships,
motivation,
career,
creativity.
and everything in between.
So make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of tea or coffee,
And enjoy your early bird talk.
Hello world, hello Sophia, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hi Salwa, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good as well. What a time we're living at right now. Alhamdulillah, if you're still here, you survived a crucial period, and we're transitioning from confinement and quarantine in most areas of the world. We just finished Ramadan for the ones of us who were fasting. I mean, what a crazy time, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is really a unique experience. We've never had to stay home for all Ramadan. Remember? Like we used to work and visit our friends, visit our family. All of this has ended, and we didn't do any of it last month, I think. But yeah, it's really still a good time to be alive.
Alhamdulillah, yes, it definitely is.
Alhamdulillah.
And since we weren't doing the things we usually do, well, we were trying new things, maybe new habits, new hobbies, things to help us cope with the situation, right? So, as you said, we're working from home. So we have all shared one unique experience during this quarantine, whether or not we were having Ramadan as well. So we were all working from home or just sitting around or looking after our kids. But the schedule completely changed and our meal times completely changed. We were either eating all the time or maybe not at all because, we were fasting, and that as well as changes our mealtime rhythm. But then Ramadan is officially done and we are coming out of this confinement period slowly but steadily. So either ways, our daily life rhythm was disrupted, but we have now acquired a ritual that has accompanied us for more than 40 days.
I mean, a few of these rituals were consciously baked, like waking up for suhoor. Like you have to wake up to pray, and you have to wake up to have your meal and stay for a while, make prayers or anything. And others that we unconsciously picked. And for instance, like probably you have to go, start cooking an hour before your meal or something like that. So with time, unconsciously, at that moment, you just like stand up and head to the kitchen to try to make your meal, So yeah, those are the kind of habits. So today I think we'll be talking, I think that today we will be talking about habits, right? And how we can sustain habits and rituals as well, since we are coming out of different routines that we have developed now as we are staying home. Some of them we could keep, others we can't then.
Exactly. I think for us, spending time in Ramadan is, for me personally, a great statement of how much we actually have control in our lives, because our daily rhythm really changes a lot, and we pick up new habits, like what you were saying, we haven't suhoor, etc., and we realize how much we can actually change our daily routines and pick up new good habits consciously. And for me, every time after Ramadan, the highest goal for me is to sustain some of those habits and to feel like, hey, I can manage doing it during a month. I mean, why not keep it for the rest of the year as well? So
yeah, and you know what? There's this study that was made in Duke University by Professor Wood, and where she says that actually more than 40% of our behavior are not decisions; they are habits. It's like yourself on autopilot, and those are just like habits you have acquired. So the problem here, I think, It's not about building these habits or making a choice, but how can we keep them? Like, yeah, so how can we build good habits and keep them for a long, long period? But I think first we need to understand what are habits.
Well, related to quarantine, it happens that the time that we need time is 40 days to actually build a habit and feel like it's sustained. And since we were in quarantine, well, that's greatly related right now. If you've been doing something for these past at least 40 days, that means you have probably a high chance to keep it and to sustain it. So what did you pick up personally, Safia? Tell us about your experience.
Wow, I picked a few things, but I think that, I mean, apart from reading, because now you have more time for reading, so instead of just having 1 hour, it easily goes to 2 hours per day, which is really amazing. And it's also helpful because it lessens the worry. So you are in another web and you're even worried about what's happening around you. But one of the most important things I think that I learned is gaining more focus as I work on other projects, which was quite impossible before. How about you? What are the things that you learned or you sustained?
Oh, that's interesting. You should tell us more about how you managed to get your focus together. For me, something that has been really life-changing is cooking my own meals steadily, consciously, and healthily. Planning them, going to the grocery store, buying the vegetables consciously because I know exactly to which meal it's going to end up being used, and then coming back home and, you know, having a daily routine of consciously baking something I'm gonna enjoy afterwards and feel like it's nutritious, and at the same time it's like a self-care habit. That's definitely something I wasn't able to do before in a steady way and conscious way. That's one thing. And then there's also, you know, since we're locked down and sitting in our homes, I felt like I had to do something more physical. So I was taking yoga classes before, but it's something I would do, you know, when I have time and never on a steady basis. So right now I just try to pick up the habit of starting my morning with a yoga routine.
Wow.
And I'm very astonished that I could
That's really impressive.
keep on doing that.
Wow. I think that we should have this episode about yoga routines, I guess. I would really love to know more.
I'd love to talk about everything that is related to morning routine. I think that's a great subject to talk about. If you're interested, guys, let us know. So
yes, please.
So that leads us to, I mean, what you're saying and what I'm not saying, and what I pick up is that it's, you know, really related to self-discipline. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that first of all, we have to try to debunk the habit loop. Like, what is a habit? There are a lot of scientists who try to study this, but one of the prominent, if I can say, books that has tackled this issue was Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, right? And in his book, he says that a habit is mainly composed of 3 components, which are a cue, a routine, and a reward. So if you want to build a new habit, you have to have a cue, for instance, and this is the example he uses. If you want to go run every morning, okay, you want to go run every morning, and how are you going to sustain this habit or build it? So first of all, you need a cue. So probably you would put your sneakers just where you can see them when you wake up, like in the morning, and build a routine. So at an exact time, you would go out, run for a specific park or a specific circuit, and then when you are done, reward yourself, give yourself a cookie somehow. But I think one of the main ideas that we should keep here is you cannot eliminate a habit, but you can replace it, right? So if you have a bad habit that you do at some point of the day, the only thing that you can do is just replace it, and I think it works. It worked for the author anyway.
Yeah, because it triggers the mind somehow. It's whenever your mind is tells you to go through that bad habit, you're replacing it with something else. So for their mind, what it gets is that you just fulfill the need to go through something, and if you replace the bad with the good, it's almost the same for for your mind at the end of the day, because you just rewarded that
that's
that
true.
need or fulfilled it somehow.
So here we're skipping all the neuroscience parts of hormones in your head and your brain. So yeah, you have to have a reward, a cue, and then a routine.
Definitely. So trigger your mind. Play triggering with your mind.
Yeah, what you said was important and related to willpower. It's something that is very essential and primordial for building any kind of habits or any kind of action for that matter,
Especially if you want to sustain it and feel like it's something that's part of your life, so you don't really want that at some point. You're just gonna
that for instance, like willpower is not something that you acquire. It's not a skill. It's something that you train. So it's like a muscle that you have to work every time. Like you start small, definitely, but with time you will notice. I mean, look at you. You've been doing yoga for whenever you can, and now you're doing it like every single morning. That's a lot. That's the thing, if you ask me.
Woohoo! To every little milestone that we made up till today. But then again, I mean, it happens that some mornings I don't manage to do it, and something happened, or I'm just feeling too overwhelmed by something else, and it doesn't happen. But I think the trigger is to tell yourself that tomorrow will start all over again and not lose momentum, even though you lose one day. In the bigger scheme of things, it's okay. And that's because there is a willpower deep inside to find wellness, and yoga for me is one of the ways I do to get there. Which links it to, for me, the most important thing behind building a habit is really defining your why. And what I mean by that is to have a clear and strong intention behind the habit itself. For instance, I don't know, you're thinking, I want to eat healthier. Okay, great. That's a wise decision, but why is it exactly? Do you want to feel better? Do you want to be healthy? Or do you want to avoid being sick? And these are different whys, and they have different energies. One of them is really positive, and the other one is actually coming from a place of fear. I'm afraid to get sick or whatever. That's why, and that's rather a weak why. I would say it's better if it's coming from a positive, loving place. Like, I would love to feel better. I would love to see my body in better shape and just feel good about myself. And that's something that would keep you going whenever you lose momentum. You just have to remember your why.
Yeah, and you know what you've been talking about right now? It's more like rituals rather than habits, because that's the difference between a ritual and a habit. So a habit is something that you just like, you know why you are doing it, but it's a weak why, But for rituals, it's more deliberate. It's with an intention and concentration. Like, we can even be talking about a little bit of mindfulness. So it's like when you're doing this thing, it's a ritual, you are avoiding living it on autopilot. So for instance, if I am reading, I'm not doing it on autopilot. I'm mindfully reading and making sure that I'm doing it like for the exact amount of time, and I know the why, because I'm curious and there are things I want to know to be able to help others and so on. So if we can just have this kind of scaling of all three words that we interchangeably used so far. So we have a ritual, which is on top, and then a routine and a habit. So you start with a habit that you define, and the habit, it's a little bit less conscious and it requires a little bit of energy. As for the routine, it's a little bit more conscious, but then there's a lot of energy more than the habit, because you are working on it like on a regular basis. And then for the ritual, and I think this is really one of the greatest spots, is when you do things mindfully with a deep intention and a lot of concentration, and definitely that would take more energy than the two others. So yeah.
It's interesting, but saying that, I mean, maybe we shouldn't confuse between putting in the effort and more energy with the habit or the ritual itself being difficult to be done. For instance, I was thinking about prayer when you were talking about this. Prayer is really a ritual right now. And for us, but it doesn't take a lot of energy, you know, in the sense of I have to make an effort or a conscious effort together. But that's also the risk that at some point it's a ritual, so it's part of your day, and do it so much that you might lose the conscious part of it. So you have to remind yourself every time consciously that you have to do it. So for me, there are two moments related to a habit or a routine or ritual, whatever, which is the moment right before where you decide that you have to do it. And I think that's the trigger moment when you have to go straight to the autopilot and not even have to decide whether or not you're gonna do it, and just do it, you know, so for it to become non-negotiable. And then there is the moment you're in the habit itself, and that's the moment you can be conscious and decide how you're doing it, and etc. So that's the trigger. But so then how do we go from a habit to routine to a ritual?
I think that one of the main differences between all three is the consistency and continuity of these three elements. So if we want to reach the ritual podium, if I dare say, we have to be more consistent. And there are a few steps that can transform any kind of activity or action into a kind of ritual. So as we said, the first thing would be setting a good intention. So be very intentional about your purpose, like, and mean it. And you have to have a good answer for the why, right? And this is when you have a purpose that is beyond the direct action itself, all right? So it's not just because I want to read so I could just finish my yearly challenge or something, but I'm reading because I need to know, I need to dig deeper in the human knowledge and all of this that is around me. I need to understand life, I need to understand myself.
I am curious, I want to learn.
Exactly, I want to learn. And the third one is that you should bring mindfulness and attention to the action, when you do it. So when you are doing something, you are cooking or anything, you just like to have to be, or any other activity, you should be more mindful and focused on the present moment, on what you're doing. Because I think life is too short to live in a haze. And if you can do this, like for any activity that you have, it would be really transformative for your life. It's really another life quality that you're looking for there.
Yeah. That's a whole other subject we can really dig deep into maybe another time. Mindfulness and how to be present. It's really interesting, and it could sound like something very overwhelming at the beginning because we're used to multitasking and doing something, but at the same time getting notifications and other stuff about other subjects. But it really, like anything else, it could in itself be a habit and get to being a routine and then to a ritual, just like we're saying. So to make it that, we have to start small, etc., etc. That's what we exactly want to talk about right now. How do we practically work on making any new decision, any habit, a ritual?
Yeah, first of all, you should acknowledge that you're not going to take off that habit, you're just going to replace it. So if you are used to eating like takeaways and fast food, then you are just going to replace it with cooking your meals. And one of the triggers that could help you with starting it would be to set a good environment for that. So for instance, if you want to eat well, you stock the refrigerator with healthy food and so on, right? And then you should, one of the important things, I think we will elaborate on this later, is define your productive window. So are you a morning person? Are you a night person? And what time for you would be better to start a new ritual or a new habit?
Definitely. Personally, it is morning for me. For me, it's in the morning because that's the moment when you wake up, you have the most the clear state of mind, the most creative moments as well, and energized moments of your day. So for me, it's easier to start right there and start building new habits at that point. I think most important thing is, even if you got a big goal or a big habit or something really ambitious, let's say you want to build, the most important thing is to start small. You never achieve something by trying to achieve everything from the first time. So really start small. For instance, let's say you want to pick up the habit of jogging or doing some exercises first thing in the morning. Well, maybe you only do it for 10 minutes the first day. Maybe you do it only for twice a week. And then you start building it to a daily habit. And, just try out and see what works for you. For me, for instance, it's easier to tell myself I'm just gonna do something for just 5 minutes, because it triggers my mind and I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's just 5 minutes. And once I'm doing it, I'm enjoying it, so I get to do it more. But I oblige myself to do it daily, because once I forget one day, it's maybe a bit harder to remember the next day that I'm gonna go back to doing that.
Yeah.
So
that's true. So you have to start small, and there's no harm in it. If I had to talk about my own personal experience related to related to reading, for instance, like whenever I tell people I read almost like more than 70 books a year, they are shocked, because how can you do that? But few years, backwards, you'll find that I was reading only 12, then 20, then 30, and so on. And now it feels so effortless to be reading 70. So you start small, and it's a habit that you are building. So you have to be really gentle with yourself, and you try different things. So first, I thought that I was more into paper books, and I thought that it was better for me to be like, it helped me read more, but it was not true. So for instance, I found that I was more of an e-reader than a real paper reader, but I still love to buy books though. So
something is really interesting that you're saying is that you're reviewing your habit, and that's how you manage to make it better and more suitable to your way of living. So you review the way you're doing, and you realize that actually some of the ideas that you had in the beginning are just not true, and actually you find out that you're better out doing something in a different way.
Yeah, you have to
that's very important also in building habits. Start small, review the journey, and maybe use the stacking habits technique, meaning if you already have something, we all have something we do every day, let's say brush our teeth, for instance, and maybe to that you link another habit. It could be anything,
for instance,
so whenever you do the first habit, that your mind is already on pilot mode doing, it leads to doing the other habit, and slowly it becomes something that you naturally do, because it just adds up.
Yeah, it just adds up. I mean, we'll be talking about, like, it's like a muscle, so you already trained it and now it works. One of the things that might help as well, and this has helped me a lot when I was on my first reading journey, is like trying to read with friends. Not joining book clubs, but more so like having this collective goal with friends and a teammate, and friend readers who will be like, okay, so I've read like a book a week or more or less, and it was sort of a challenge. It's not like envy, but it's more like we are both challenging ourselves to read more and so on. And that's the kind of
it's not a competition, but
no, it's not.
It's a collective.
It's a collective goal, yes. And we reward ourselves. So when you can attain your goals, so there's a sort of social recognition that, hey, you can set goals and get them. You're good. And that's really interesting as a reward, more than like having a cookie, I guess, if you ask me. Yeah, and
well, it depends. For me, the cookie is actually
you're
pretty interesting as well.
All right. So yeah, and then you have to acknowledge the good positive impact that you are doing. Like, compare yourself with yourself, not other people. Okay, compare yourself with yourself again, and just
with your old self.
Yeah, be welcoming of your own flaws. I mean, you might not stick to your habit for a while, but it's okay. You can go back on track at any time. It's fine. We're not perfect.
Definitely.
Right?
stay compassionate and gentle with yourself. You're going on this journey to feel better. Remember, again, define your why. And it's probably something like be happier, feel better about myself, get more knowledge, etc. So the way you're doing it counts as well. If you're gentle with yourself, that's part of getting closer to the wellness state of being.
Okay, so I think that we learned a few things today about habits and how to build a habit and to go from a habit to a routine to a ritual. So now we are challenging you to change a few habits. So what are the things that you changed during this quarantine or during Ramadan? And let us know. And we have a little suggestion for you. If you are in, is that you start journaling every day, for instance, or once a week or whatever. Anyway, we suggest you start this activity. It was really helpful for both of us on many levels of our own well-being. And there's another surprise for you coming next week.
So stay tuned.
So yeah, maybe we'll have something different for you next week, inshallah. Anyway, let us know what you thought about this episode. What are the things that you changed, the habits? And peace out.
Thanks for listening to our talk. We had a good time recording it for you. Let us know what was your favorite parts. If you liked this episode, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to join the Birds family on Instagram. Peace be upon you all.